Ramon will paint you up right. Hey, anything you want. You know, like the flame job.
Oh,
maybe
thanks,
ghost
Daddy.
flames.
Hey, thanks for coming by and checking out Pete's Snakebite Kit. Here on this YouTube channel, what we're talking about is building Cobras. Well, really mostly my Cobra, which is a replica of a 1965 427 SC. The hood scoops, the side pipes, the roll bar, the one you think of when you think of a Cobra. That's what we're building. Let's take a look at it. So this thing has been a lot of fun building. It's all together. I mean, it runs. Everything works electrically. The engine starts. It starts perfectly cold. It starts hot. The cooling system works great. The brakes are really good. It goes around corners pretty well. It's pretty fast too. But as you can see, we're on gel coat. Okay, so at some point this is going to be all done and painted. You know, I've envisioned this for a long, long time. And I was reading an article about somebody that built a car, and he was talking about how much money he spent painting the car. Abstractly, not the dollars and cents, but it was a lot of money. And his take on it was, people are going to walk by the car and look at it, and they're going to judge the entire project by the paint job. And it got me thinking about something. So if you've been watching Pete's Snakebite Kit for any amount of time, you know, I put this whole thing together. It's been a dream of mine for decades to build a Cobra, and I really wanted to do everything myself. I mean, I selected all the parts for the engine. I put it together. You know, I got this thing in boxes. It wasn't a rolling chassis, and it was a lot of fun, you know, putting it together. There was a lot of fit and finish on this thing. When you think of a kit car and things just bolting together, I can tell you that was not my personal experience, but it was fun, and some of it was frustrating. I've probably done everything on the car 2 to 3 times on average, and I'm not kidding. Taking it apart, putting it back together, making sure it fits. Hey, this is upside down or whatnot. But I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I tell you, the thrill I get driving this down the street is pretty hard to describe. So what I really wanted to have happen on this is when it gets done, that it looks great. Could I have learned to paint? Yeah. Could I have been good at it? I don't know. Just not something I was excited about learning. And it's a huge commitment, and it's very messy. I don't have a place to, you know, to do the paint and the prep work and all of those things. I thought, you know what? I'm going to step up and I'm going to pay somebody to do this, and I want it to look good. When I went to install the carpet, I started doing that a couple of times. And honestly, the molded carpet that's supposed to fit perfectly really doesn't fit that great. So the place I'm going to take this, they do frame off restorations, and they're fully capable of putting the padding and the carpeting in and making it fit. So again, that's something you're going to walk by the car and glance down into the interior and say, hey, you know, the carpet looks like it's supposed to be there. And I really didn't want to make it a bigger headache than it had to be, and I didn't want it to look second rate. I think we've all heard the term sticker shock before. When I started shopping around on paint prices, I just about had a heart attack. So
Right, I'll paint any car for just $99.95.
So I'll talk a little bit about what they need to do. I want to show you a couple things on the car that will put in perspective why this isn't just scuff it and paint it. So I'm not really sure why Hurricane did it this way, but you can see the hood looks like it goes in there. It will need some work for that to be gapped properly. But you can see the side of the hood is radiused. The doors in the trunk aren't that way. I mounted all these up, and I did a little bit of work getting the hood to fit. I got the doors mounted, I started working on those, and you can see these things are just, it's like they're just chopped out of something. And so these all need to be radiused and proper gaps put in there. I've got the hinges somewhat close. They're going to need to adjust those to make it right. But they're going to need to make the door fit. Same thing with the deck lid. That took me a bit just to get this thing to fit in there with a decent gap so it would work. But it's still, you know, a rigid edge. I put a little bit of radius on it, but this would just look like a saw cut around there. So they're going to need to make that thing fit. Same thing with, of course, the driver door. Trying to get the dash all cleaned up and radiused and smooth under here without damaging this leather dashboard. Well, obviously that's not going to happen. So I'll go through a little bit of the process that the body shop's going to do to paint this thing and make it look awesome. Here's how the bodywork process is going to go as I understand it. I'm going to take the car down there and running trim, and then they're going to start on it, and they're going to work on gapping the trunk, gapping the doors and the hood, and of course straightening out the body and so on. And they're going to get that all pretty lined up. Then they're going to take the body off of the car, and they're going to do more work on working on the fender radiuses underneath the dashboard and things you can't safely access with the body on the car. And then they're going to, back spray things and so on and get it really cleaned up. At that point, they will put the body back on the car and final finish the doors and the trunk and the hood and all of those things, and make sure everything fits and nothing really moved too much during the bodywork process. Once they say it's good, then they're going to take it back off, and they're going to paint and back spray everything, and then the final color. Then they're going to put the car back together and then mount the doors, the hook, the trunk, and put the emblems on and all of those nice touches. And then the thing's going to look like an awesome red Cobra. Well, that's the plan anyway. I'm going to see how this goes, and I'm really looking forward to having this as a finished Cobra. So imagine this in Rangoon red. It's going to be back here in a few months, and it's going to be bright red. I really can't wait. I've been waiting to do this for decades. And like I've talked about before, one of the things that really excites me is this thing's going to look very accurate, real knockoffs. It's got Smith gauges, and it's got a Lucas ammeter. I went to some details on this thing. And the Hurricane body is spot on. It was pulled right off of a car in restoration, a 3000 series car. So is it going to be an original car? No. Can you tell it's not an original one? I think most people could, but it's going to be close, and that's what I've been shooting for, and that's what I've been dreaming about all these years. I've talked about how accurate the Hurricane Cobra kit is. One of the things that's kind of cool is this body is a mold off of an original 3000 series Cobra. Where these little guys are, this isn't about where this goes. That's where that was on an original car. Same thing on the trunk. When I went to put these hood locks on, again, that's not about where they go. That's what it was on the car that this mold was pulled off of. Is every Cobra exactly the same? No. They were handmade aluminum cars, but that's where they were on one of them. So there you have it. I hope that gives you a better idea how big of a project this paint is. The other thing, kind of one of my takeaways on this is, for instance, on this, I'm going to spend more money on the paint than I thought I would. And part of that is, since COVID, we all know things have gone way up. But even beyond that, paint costs more than I thought it would cost. And what I've learned on this project is it takes what it takes, right? And so things may be harder than you thought they were going to be. They may cost more than you thought they were going to be. But on a project like this, you've got to be committed to the end goal and say the stuff in the interim that costs more money, is more frustrating, or is harder than you thought, has got to be just incidental if it's going to end up the way you pictured it to be. Anyway, that's my take on this. I'm going to try and get you some footage of us actually transporting it, loading it up, and getting to the body shop. Be looking for that on the next episode of Pete's Snakebite Kit.